Hello, today we have Craig Wilkie, who is the RICS Wiki coordinator for Nottinghamshire County Council, and he's going to talk to us about his experience of implementing wikis within Nottinghamshire. So hello Craig.
Hi Kasia.
So would you like to tell us about your setting up RICS Wiki and how did it go?
Well, we started with a pilot with a small group of parents. We started with parents and families, and we sort of classed that as a bit of a micro-pilot. We only invited 4 parents to trial wikis. I suppose as a county council, it was a bit new to us, the whole wiki technology. We'd heard about person-centred planning, and our schools were using person-centred planning, but wikis themselves were quite new. So we wanted to test the technology, and we did that with a group of 4 parents. They were great at pushing the technology, trying it out, testing it, coming back and making some suggestions about what worked really, really well and the type of things they'd like to see used in a different way, perhaps. So that was really powerful, and what we found with that micropilot is it gave us the fuel we needed to take the step further into a larger scale pilot. So what we decided to do is, rather than taking a larger scale pilot out to individual parents, we'd centre that around a school. Now in Nottinghamshire we've got some terrific examples of schools using person-centred planning to support obviously development and engagement with young people, planning forward and helping them to realise their hopes, dreams and aspirations. And what we decided to do was work with St Giles Special School, who were experts in person-centred planning. It was their thing, it was what they'd been doing, and they'd had their staff trained to use that technique in everything they did. So when we approached them with this concept of a wiki pilot to take it on from this small scale, very small scale pilot with parents, they embraced it with both hands because it was a technology that enabled them to do something they were already doing. They were already using person-centred planning, but the multimedia aspect of RICS wikis just gave it a completely new, fresh dimension, and it enabled them to do what they were doing, but take it that step further to present that person-centred planning process in a digital format, which was really powerful. From that pilot of around 60 wikis, we were able then to use that as a case study, to work with our leadership team at the County Council and to demonstrate that the practical implementation of wikis was possible, both in the sense of families and young people using them to support person-centred planning, but also as a school being a supporter and an encourager of the use of multimedia advocacy and wiki website technologies.
So what sort of policies did you have to put in place?
I think to start off with, there was a lot of concern around safety and security. I mean, we're talking about really confidential, private and precious information, and people want to be reassured that that is safe. So there was a lot of questions internally at the County Council about whether this was a safe technology to use. What we did is we put together a bit of a risk register, which essentially is saying, what are the risks around this sort of technology and what mitigations can we put in place to make sure that that's reduced? And part of that was around developing really good quality communications and resources around how to keep safe online. I mean, these are messages that we get day in, day out from our bank, or keeping our emails safe or accounts safe online. We just thought that we needed to really fine-tune those messages to wiki website users so they really understood the importance of data protection, keeping passwords strong and safe, and all of those types of things. I suppose that risk register then led us on to the development of an e-safety policy or an acceptable use policy. And we did this with pictures. So we worked with young people, we put together a series of pictures around what being e-safe looks like, and then we tried to apply that to wiki websites so they could see that connectivity between staying safe, keeping safe, and using wikis in a safe way. Which was really, really well received. We had a really simple, sort of an acceptable use signatory part of the policy, so they could then, give their thumbs up to things like, it's okay to have my photo taken, and I promise to keep my passwords safe, and I promise to tell an adult I trust if there's something I see that worries me on my wiki or somebody else's wiki. So that was sort of key, I guess, the safety policy. Mm-hmm. I think the final one, if I can just add in, was something we got from professionals, was a sort of message we got from professionals, which was they were sort of cautious around online information, sharing online information. And I suppose that was the point where we instigated something called a professionals charter. Now, essentially, that was a set of rights and responsibilities around a professional. And I think the development of that policy just gave professionals that confidence that they can use wikis and they can engage with this technology, but also that they were fundamentally protected in terms of what they wanted to share and when they wanted to share that. So we strengthened their rights and their responsibilities by sort of enshrining this into a charter for them. And I think that was really positive for them and meant that we could be on the front foot with professionals. And rather than being in a responsive situation, we were more proactive and went out with that policy so they were sort of clear about their rights and responsibilities from the outset.
Great. So what is any barriers that you hit?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we've touched on it previously, that one of the barriers was security and data. And obviously what we were able to do with the County Council, with Rix Media, we were able to have a conversation around sort of the technical elements of security that are applied across the platform. At a very early stage, we got involved our IT team, and they were able to be reassured by the technical specification which met their criteria for what constitutes to being a safe online space. That was the joy of working in a large team with the County Council, having experts on hand from the IT service to be able to interrogate the specification that the university and Rix Media had demonstrated, and then make sure that it sort of held together and fitted really well with their expectations about what a secure platform containing personal data should look like. Another thing that often was raised by professionals was technical incompatibility. So they would say, it won't work on our, maybe wiki websites won't work on our network and it won't be interoperable with our systems. So what we did was, in that original pilot, we worked very closely with some of our hospital colleagues in the NHS, healthcare professionals, and we did some pilots around sort of sending, receiving invitations, viewing wikis on their system, just to get that reassurance. We also tied in with a strategic health authority IT board. We talked to them about what we were doing, we got their buy-in, we ensured that they understood that if there were any technical barriers that we needed to overcome, for example, like unblocking the Rix Media website, that we had then lines of communication to that team, and also like strategic lines to their leadership, so they understood what we were trying to achieve. And that, I suppose, helped us a lot. You know, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, any sort of grassroots issues we had, we'd already tried to second guess by working strategically to get that buy-in. So whilst I'm not saying we were issue free, we'd sort of set ourselves up to have lots of mechanisms in place to address technical issues from the outset.
Well, thanks, Craig. That sounds really great, and I can see already that the success relied really on successful communication between those different professionals, from leadership all the way to the frontline staff and the families and the individuals, which is great. So can you give us 3 tips that you would suggest for wiki leaders to ensure successful implementation?
I think the first thing, Gosha, is that you've got to develop your own internal confidence and capacity, both as a leader, but also as, for example, if you're working in a school or an organisation, you've got to get that school or that organisation confidently using multimedia advocacy, using Rix Wikis, before you start going off and spreading the word to others. So building internal capacity is critical, and there's lots of ways to do that, using, you know, the superb online courses, working with mini pilots in the school with young people, so that your staff can actually see the benefits and the values of Rix Wikis up front within their own organisation. I think that's key. I think the second thing we found was that rather than holding lots of sort of Rix Wiki or multimedia advocacy events, what we tried to do is just piggyback on other events. So we had diaries of the types of events that we thought young people and parents that might benefit from wikis would attend. So, for example, in Nottinghamshire, we have an SEND parents conference, and we piggybacked on that. And what you often find with these events is the people planning the events are looking for just these sort of opportunities to bring something fresh and new, to have something to talk or share something that's really exciting like this. So we found that the door was open for us when we approached people organising these types of events to come in and share our views. And I suppose the benefit of that is we were taking advantage of all of these other opportunities to share our good news. and we've sort of putting our impact into presenting and sharing rather than trying to organise big conferences. Somebody else was sort of doing that for us. I think the final thing that I would encourage people to do is to build their confidence by having some pilots, by working on some pilots within their school. Pilots are a great way of sort of taking a bit of a jump, a bit of a step forward into wikis to explore what's possible and to learn about the benefits. And that could just be done with, with just one young person and one family. And I think from a pilot, the impact, the outcome will be so significant and so powerful that you wouldn't not want to roll it out to more young people, more families. So I think doing a pilot gives you that confidence to know what you're doing is right, it's powerful, and it's life-changing really for a young person.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Greg. So starting small, that's your message.
Yeah.
Thanks.